Welcome everyone to What the Force, and welcome to our last episode of Bad Batch Report, at least for this season.
Yeah, I'm
Marie Claire Gould, your host, and with me is Kyle Gould.
That's me.
Yes.
I don't know whether I'm like excited or disappointed. Like
What?
I enjoyed
What?
the last 16 weeks of this with you
Yes.
immensely, but at the same time, I'm happy this season's done. It's like,
It told a story.
yeah, much like today's episode, a very long-winded and sometimes seemingly pointless one. And I'll preface that is that this episode seemed to do a lot of the same thing over and over again.
Really nailing the points down. Okay, so yes, I agree with you that some of this season did seem a little like we're laying bricks,
Yeah.
right? We're going on a journey and we need to lay a lot of bricks to let people know where we're going with the journey and set stuff up,
Yeah.
right?
Like,
I think that was pretty obvious.
We're going on a trip in our favorite rocket ship,
Little Einstein
zooming through the skies.
Okay, this is not resonating probably with anyone, but okay.
It
so,
resonates with me because
okay.
I have seen so many episodes
Of
of that
Little
show.
Yes, we're parents. So yes, I agree with you, but also it's a really beautiful road that they're starting to build. I really, really appreciate a lot of the themes that they're going into, and that you and I last episode were like, well, now they're all alone and they have to have this conflict with each other. There's nothing else to distract them except for momentarily, a giant
So many distractions.
turtle thing.
They were literally distracted like the whole episode.
I mean, that's part of adventure, right? You have to get your way out of the barriers, out to the surface, right?
Yeah.
So this was Kamino Lost.
Yes.
The title is self-evident.
Yeah. Yeah, and you really get the feeling of that title at the end of the episode with Omega looking out upon it. And you could tell that even though she never wanted to go back, she never wanted it to be destroyed.
I think all of the clones, all of the Bad Batch had similar reactions when they saw the birthing pods. Literally, it's like watching your home get destroyed, right? Like, this is where you lived and you grew up and all of those things, right? And so even Wrecker was like, no, my birthing pod.
Yeah. The whole...
My gestation pod, no! Like, that's his reaction.
Yeah, the whole "it takes a village." That was our village. Yeah.
Only me and the 7 million others like me.
And when I look at it from a perspective of some of my favorite Clone Wars episodes were the ones of the clones training and learning and growing and developing.
Yeah.
And those episodes from Clone Wars were some of my favorites.
Like Domino Squad and all learning about 99 and who inspired the Bad Batch. Yeah.
That, when I look at it through the lens of this episode, I am sad for that which is lost.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we start out the episode, they're trapped in the catastrophe Rampart. We did get a new Rampart name, didn't we?
Yes, somebody...
It was Susan.
Yes, Susan had a great one, like Emil Otto von Rampart, because there's a character in history named like Pampart or something like that.
Right.
Pampant or something, and it's so similar to Rampart, and it's really delightful, really funny tweet. If I had my phone on me, I'd pull it up.
Yeah, that was Night Sister Ashla, who's been on the podcast before. She had a really great one. I, in general, will be so disappointed when we find out what Rampart's first name actually is, because nothing lives up to some of them that we've come up with.
I even tweeted out to the voice actor and said, "Do you know this?" But he, of course,
didn't respond. I should actually tweet at Pablo and find out if he knows.
That would be fun.
I'm sure he'd make it up on the spot, and then that would be canon.
Boom.
Boom, canon.
If you're going to do that, then you should tweet a suggestion, and then when he takes the suggestion, You're now the namer.
Emile Otto von Rampart.
Yes.
Or Trebuchet. Goes by Treb.
Treb.
But yes, we see Rampart, and there's this really wonderful moment where the clone that reports to him that the city is like being destroyed. D. Bradley Baker does this amazing thing where he's kind of choked up delivering the news to Rampart, and I'm like, okay, so another point in the column of clone trooper rebellion that's going to happen, or freedom, or breaking them out, allowing them to as many to escape the throes of the Empire.
And damn it, now I see why they did what they did with Crosshair, and that is Crosshair has no inhibitor chip.
Yeah,
and everybody's like, why? In fact, I've written this on my sheet of notes that I have for today's episode. I literally have this written down several ways over. If it wasn't the inhibitor chip, then what was it that caused Crosshair to go to the Empire? What does Crosshair want? And he sees, much like all of those other clones, no opportunity for him in the world.
Yeah.
He only sees what his skill set has offered him and given him as a way to
be part of a military industrial machine.
It's the only way for him to grow and develop and promote and be successful is through the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
He does not see any degree of success or life ahead of the rest of the clones that have made the choice that they made. And that's why he's so conflicted the entire episode. And now that I look at it from that lens, we need Crosshair to still think this way, but now to have questions about it, because he will serve as our lens
into the Empire and
to see the other clones.
Yeah, I agree. And there are some people on the internet who are like, I love how Crosshair wants to go back to the Empire and he still wants to, kill people. And it's like, whoa, alt-right people out the wazoo love the fact that Crosshair was so mean to Omega and still wanted to be kind of this, join the fascist army.
Fascists love fascism, right?
I know. So it's really interesting, and I can't wait for their heads to explode when he eventually is redeemed. And I plan to woobify him, i.e. call him a baby all the time on the internet whenever I can.
So my thinking is that if you recognize that, I'm hoping that our executive producers and our writers group and the team that's writing Bad Batch, they see that. They have seen for a very long time now those people out there that identify and empathize with the Empire, those Proud Boys.
Well, they don't. They see themselves as the Luke Skywalkers.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah.
But the people who see, the Empire is good, we need to be able to shift their perspective
and tell them a story
that'll make them rethink how they view their own lives and how they view their own relationship with that sort
if these people didn't understand Vader's redemption arc in Return of the Jedi and just sort of see it only from Luke's perspective, they told 3 movies to make Vader's redemption arc more about Vader. So I don't know. I don't know. People's takes on fiction and not getting the moral of the story without a 30-second, hey kids, you watched this show and this is about the fact that good people and family members can make bad decisions and you can still love them and you can still hold out hope that at one point they'll make better decisions. Do shows need that nowadays? Is society's reading of textual information that bad that they can't even pick up the moral of the story any longer?
Well, because there are multiple morals, because there's different lenses, and new readership criticism tells us that your takeaway from the book, from the media, is just as valid as anyone else's, and that lessens, intellectual discourse, and that decreases and diminishes the role of the critic by any reader can take whatever they want from the book.
I hate new readers so much. Sorry, we live in a world where you do kind of have to know at least a little bit about cultural norms to understand a story. At least a little bit, don't we? At least I don't know. Maybe I'm just
Well, the thing is that
tiredly
this
arguing
story
this
is going to stand the test of it's going to be there, right? They have created this and it is now out in the world.
Yeah.
And so what will this represent and how will this be viewed 10 years from now, 20 years from now?
And it all depends on culture and everything like that. And yes, you're right. Different lenses and different experiences you bring as the reader to the story will change your interpretation of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so maybe it's true. If this is a cartoon and it is meant for a younger audience, that maybe it is a bit better to smash over the head the message that they are trying to impart.
I just think so kids are smarter than that. And they pick it up pretty easily.
Well, then
I struggle with adults that don't get the point of stories.
Well, they're looking for alternative meaning.
Okay, fine.
Right? Those people are already. But if you're given a story and you're already supportive and excited about it, and then you identify with Crosshair, right?
Yeah.
And then Crosshair goes through a transition and a change, and his perspective is shifted, and he changes as a result.
He'll have a journey arc, and this is the point. He needs to go on a journey. That's right. The thing that is missing that this season is telling us with the whole story, right? With this whole thing, and it is the point of this episode, is that this is a family.
Yeah.
In whatever sense of the word you want to use, it is.
Yeah.
And it's not complete without Crosshair in it. And that's going to be part of something that they're going to need to solve in future seasons.
No matter what Crosshair does, or what artificial lines he draws in the sand and then steps over himself, the others, the Bad Batch and Omega, will still be his family. They will still view him as their brother, and they will still give him that chance.
Yes.
And that's important. I was thinking as well that there's some connective tissue here between this and Rebels, with our favorite bearded Empire guy who then becomes
Agent Callus. Yeah, it's going to feel, I also feel like this is going to be, maybe not Agent Callus's exact story, because him and Zeb had their interactions kind of spread throughout, and their moment of trust, we have to rely on each other even though we're enemies, later on.
Yeah.
And that's happening earlier on, I guess, for Crosshair. Plus he also has we were together as a group before this, right?
He's a very different person, but I feel that the story of I am loyal, dedicated to the Empire, because I see myself being successful and I see a path for myself with them. Yeah. And that really does speak to people, because they want that path laid out for them. A lot of people don't want an open plain where they can choose whichever door they wish to go through and whatever career they want to have. They would like to be told, this is the career for you. This is what you'll be good at. Go and do that, and you will be assured of happiness, contentment, and success.
Or, continuing to live and thrive and eat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Callus had that, and then saw, when I walk this path, it means forsaking these other things. Yeah. I can't be part of this organization, even though it improves my own personal life, because of the detriment that it causes for everyone around it. That is not part of it. And I'm hoping that we see that from Crosshair.
I hope so too. It's really interesting that they started the episode with Omega risking her life to save Crosshair.
Yeah, I saw that coming right away.
Oh, I know.
Oh, sorry. I say I saw that coming, but this episode was so dark.
Yeah.
It was so hard to see so much of what was going on. Like, I mean, it was the middle of the day on my computer monitor, but I've got a really good computer monitor, and I had to like shut the blinds on the window, turn the contrast up, and it was still hard to see some of the greater detail that was going on in the episode. Did you find it hard to watch, or like too much black?
I didn't have problems seeing the detail in the episode. Yeah.
Must have just been my monitor. I've watched it twice. I was tempted to go downstairs and watch it on the big screen in the black basement to see what I could get out of it, because blacks are just so hard to see on the television because the LED is still pushing light through and it's supposed to turn the light off, right? And
right,
so
yeah.
These variances and how dark can black genuinely be when black is the absence of light?
Yeah, good point.
And then they put us underground, underwater,
at
night.
With no lights in a sinking city. Yeah. Now it has become Atlantis.
So much so.
Yes. I really love the moment where she saves him.
Yeah.
And when they finally get AZ and her work together, and AZ being in this episode was just like glorious the whole time. I love AZ.
AZ has the only risk element to this episode.
Yeah.
I can genuinely fear.
I got so upset later on.
Only AZ.
Yeah.
Everyone else, there's no way.
Yeah.
But AZ could be lost, especially when AZ says, my primary function is to ensure you are safe.
Yeah. And my primary function is complete.
I have fulfilled
my primary
my function.
Yeah.
I fulfilled my function. And you guys can't see in the podcast land, but I literally held up my hands and started to like fade backwards.
Drift off into the ocean.
Just clamp down, AZ.
I was ready. I was like gearing up to be very upset.
Yes.
And like I was getting very, very, we're jumping around a lot just because this episode
that's okay, because there's
very, very
not
clear,
too much that happens. But
yeah.
The start of AZ.
But in that start of the AZ and like, you know, kind of agreeing with Omega that they have the common goals of getting everybody out, and the rest of the Bad Batch is more interested in fighting each other. And so it really is like Omega and AZ who are like, we have the plan. And even Crosshair comments on is like, you're now taking orders from this child. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Literally wrote that down as one of the lines from this.
But it is
You're letting
clear,
a kid call the shots.
Yeah, it is very clear that Omega and AZ are working together with a very single-minded focus to get everybody out, whereas the Bad Batch is just very like emotionally compromised.
Well, that's not necessarily true, because I don't even think Echo says a single thing this entire episode.
He says one line, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that line was,
at least you don't have to share the tube or whatever.
He doesn't share a tube. He has his own tube.
No, he shares it with Tech.
So Tech and Echo share a tube because of the same character.
Yeah.
Wrecker gets his own tube because
He's
no
big.
one's going to fit in there with him. Omega gets her own tube, which is just so mind-boggling, half the size of a normal being. And then they put Crosshair and Hunter in the same tube.
It's because Hunter doesn't trust Crosshair.
I know.
Right?
I know. But
it all made sense to me.
It absolutely makes sense. So the only genuinely interesting plot in this episode is AZ saving Crosshair with Omega's help. AZ having power supply issues.
Yeah. Well, as far as like scary, we feel stakes plot, because I do actually think that Crosshair's like arguments with the rest of the Bad Batch are like character-wise so good.
But it just was the same notes.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They were just plunking the same 7 bars of a melody.
It was Jaws
throughout.
all over again.
Right.
Da-da, 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 just at different speeds.
Right.
To create anxiety.
And that moment of the ascension which I know you want to talk about later,
I do.
but we can get the AZ stuff out now.
Yeah.
That moment during the ascension where AZ saves the day and manipulates and gets everyone going, and then gets Omega
gets
clear,
stuck, and then
power goes out and AZ starts to sink down.
I was like so upset. I was pre-upset as soon as he's like, I have completed my primary I'm like, no, don't you dare.
And it's gorgeous because they didn't just leave it at that.
Yes, they
escalated the situation.
Yes.
Omega breaks free of her medical tube.
Everyone has the bends.
And, well, I don't know how far they really came up, but yes, it's possible. And then goes after AZ.
Yes.
There is no way Omega can swim and pull this heavy droid up. And I honestly was like, oh no, what is going to happen? Is Hunter going to dive in? And then Crosshair pulls a gun on Hunter.
Yeah.
And I was fooled.
Yeah.
Right? In that moment, I was fooled because the look on Hunter's face is like, I expected your inevitable betrayal.
Curse your sudden and inevitable betrayal. Yes.
And it just shifts slightly over the shoulder of Hunter
into the water.
And I'm like, he shoots Omega, and I hear the
Tink.
Zap of the rope shoot out and the grappling hook clamp around AZ and pull AZ up. And you watch as Omega loses consciousness and slumps onto AZ and get pulled up as well. And Crosshair has saved them both.
Yeah. And I wanted to say, like, look, Crosshair, your evil, like, murderous ways can actually be used to save people. And I just wanted to be like, look, baby, you did good. But everybody still doesn't trust him. Like, Hunter doesn't thank Crosshair for that. I was surprised.
Why would he need to?
I mean, I think that you thank people for saving people's lives. Thank you for saving Omega. And then immediately Crosshair's like, yes, you still don't trust me. And because of that, and throws the gun to Wrecker.
Yes.
It was a brilliant moment.
It was gorgeous. I personally heard Mariah Carey's voice singing in the background.
Yeah.
Because, a hero had come along with the strength to carry on.
And that hero is in you.
Well, that's...
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know.
You're like, I don't really know that song, so I'll just throw some words out there.
I don't know what song that you're talking about.
Hero by Mariah Carey. I'll play it for you. I own the album. It's one of my favorite songs.
Okay.
It's also in the movie Hero, which is just absolutely amazing. And I should show that to Robin and Will because it talks a lot about what it means to be a hero and to do the noble thing with no expectation of thank you or acclaim or fame or that 15 minutes on national TV and whatnot, without any of that. Just to do the right thing for the right reasons is what makes a genuine hero. It's not the trappings that come with it that you do good things for.
Right.
Anyway, Crosshair's a hero, and we need to recognize that he has that within himself.
He does. Yay, baby.
Even though he's like, yeah, that just clears the debt.
Yeah. He's such a jerk.
I wouldn't have done it if you hadn't saved me earlier.
Well, I mean, I think you maybe justified it to yourself just then. So AZ and Omega are the primary driving factor for getting them out of their predicament. They go through all of the building and they're like, we still have to make it back to the secondary landing pad that they are in. They find the tube that took them to the secret lab. They managed to get in there. There's a little bit of drama with a lot of Crosshair commentary.
Yep.
Along the way. They have this dramatic moment with kaiju sea turtle.
Yeah.
It was
I think we've seen that monster before.
I don't know.
I don't recall.
He looked or it looked very sea turtle-ish.
Yeah.
With like more,
So
crocodile
so many
face.
teeth.
Yeah, it was cool. I look forward to finding out what that sea creature is.
So many teeth.
It's no Bebo's mother, though, so nothing quite beats Bebo's mother.
No.
But, the drama of the tube itself. And then they end up in the lab. And the lab is such an interesting scene itself because it confirms a few things that we had talked about last episode.
Well, first,
Oh,
they have a journey backwards because they journey and their journey takes them to a safe point, which is their own barracks.
right. Oh, sorry. Yes, they end up in their own barracks. Yeah.
They end up in their training facility when they were really young, right? The med lab area. And then they go to the place where they were born. They basically go backwards in time.
Yes.
Through their Kaminoan memories.
Right. And they're talking about it the whole time. And Wrecker's like, look, they kept the kill count, the death count.
That's their successful mission.
Successful mission count. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's that's such a great point because then later on when they end up in the lab, not being able to make it all the way back to the platform, they go into those medical tubes, which we were just talking about with the AZ scene.
Yeah.
And are
literally
basically
where they were created.
Yeah. Symbolically born again.
Yep.
From the oceans of Kamino. So that fits with the going back in time from Kamino.
Yeah.
Being born into these new lives officially because home is destroyed. There is no going back. They have to live this new life. And it is a death and rebirth cycle that happens.
Absolutely. You can look at it from that perspective of they're climbing into coffins.
Yeah.
And then being shipped out to sea.
Yep.
And then being reborn in that regards. It's a baptism by both water and fire.
Yep.
For them throughout this entire episode as they're deluged over and over and over again.
Yep.
And then reborn to new purpose.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, one of the things I've been thinking about a lot since watching The Green Knight is what is that moment of spiritual transition that happens when you've decided to leave your old coil behind. Ego death is, a big topic because of The Green Knight. And this is such a good way of saying you cannot go back again because you literally can't.
Yeah.
In the story. Yeah.
It's destroyed.
Yeah. I really loved the moments, again, back to the lab when they finally arrive there and they realize they can't sort of take the shortcut to the landing platform. And that leads to the rebirth moment, death and rebirth moment, as we just talked about. But that there's a realization not only on the most skeptical member of the crew, but everybody sort of acknowledging that Omega has knowledge of beyond and before they existed because she is older and she remembers this before time.
Yep.
Which is powerful.
Yes.
And almost mystical in a psychological way. Right? Because
what do you mean?
So there's a certain amount of mysticism around stories from before you existed, right? So when we were just people who told stories around fires and campfires, there was the time that came before, and you always listened to your elders who would tell you about the things that existed before you or about you as a young child when you didn't remember these things. And it helps to give your life meaning and understanding, to understand not only where you come from, but also who is what you were before you could even remember.
Right. Well, it is one of the last things that you develop as you enter into adulthood is that recognition that the things that you do now are predicated upon that which came before that allows you to do the things you are doing now,
yeah.
But also the things you do now. And not a lot of people learn this well enough that the things that you do now lead to repercussions things that'll happen in the future,
affect the future generations.
So
and it's understanding that cycle of things and listening to our elders is how we hopefully understand the wisdom of old.
Yeah.
And like even called out in the episode to say Omega is older than all of us.
Yeah.
Led into sort of this very wise moment from Tech where he calls out to Crosshair exactly where he's coming from. Like he understands him.
Well, he tells Wrecker, this is my highlight moment of the show for me, other than the AZ story, is that Wrecker is getting into it with Crosshair. Yeah. As brothers would. When one brother sees another brother acting improperly and having made poor decisions, he calls him out on it. And he wants to get into a fight to say, you're wrong.
Yep.
And Tech shuts it right down. Tech says, it's not worth it.
Right.
Don't even bother. He is who he is, and people don't change, and he's not going to change. Which I'll tell you right now, as soon as you say that,
means it's going to happen in fiction.
You beget change because people can change.
And people do change because of the circumstances that they're in and the experiences that they have. We just as humans, like we lean back on our own personalities a lot, which is our like resting state, the state that we were when we were babies. Right. But our experiences allow us to mold who we want to be beyond that.
Not only that, but they allow you, by having had this exchange at all, Crosshair sees an opportunity to say no to Tech. I can be different if he wishes to. Everything that you learn and see and do and interact and experience in your life begets your own growth and development as a person, which is of course change.
Yeah, of course.
Like he's still young.
Yes.
Right? We have to recognize the fact that he looks like a really old man who's close to retirement because he's just so worn down by his own stresses.
Yeah.
And the number of killings that he's done, the amount of droid lives he's taken. But what's important is that Crosshair's still young and has still much to experience and grow and develop and change from.
Yeah. And it was so fascinating to hear Tech explain exactly where Crosshair himself thought he was coming from and to understand that lens so well that he can like throw it back at him.
Yeah.
Well, explain it to Wrecker and then have Crosshair be like, yes, do you agree with me? And then have that rebutted.
Which is, I'm going to take that in to myself. I have changed because of this show.
Oh, wow.
When Tech says, just because I understand you does not mean I agree with you.
Yeah. I wish I had that like in my pocket at a younger age.
That's if you've seen The Bad Batch, if you're listening to this podcast, you need to write that down or
put it on a sticky note.
Needle point that into a little thing you put on a pillow, because that's so important to help do two things in life. One, it will decrease the amount of conflict that you have.
Yeah.
When you understand another person, that means you're understanding their motivations and their reasons for doing things. And you'll see, oh, that person's talking that way because they're hungry. So I'm not going to get mad at the words they're saying.
Right.
I'll recognize the hunger behind it.
Yeah. It's something as like parents and loved ones of each other that we've really tried to work on over the years, which is don't fight if the basic needs are not met.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then you don't need to fight if you don't agree with them.
Right.
That's hugely relevant. I have a few role models in my personal life that I note. They just are so good at agreeing with everyone around them. But they're not actually agreeing. They're not internalizing the point that you've made in the big debate that you've had.
Right.
They're not internalizing it. It's washing over them like water off a duck's back. It's not changing them in any capacity because they see and understand me, but they don't agree with me. But they're more than willing to surface level allow that position to stand without contestation.
Yeah.
Not everything needs to be a fight.
Yeah.
And I will admit that in my family, none of them are very good at recognizing that. I was never raised from the perspective of, you can allow others to have opinions of their own. No, in my world, if a person had a differing opinion from yours, or they stated something that was wrong, you needed to fix that and correct them.
I didn't grow up that way.
No. But gladly we agree on many things, so we're okay there. And I feel I am an educated and intellectual person who sees the ways
and you can change
processing
with new information and new ways of thinking about things.
Yes, I think about things scientifically, and I'm always trying to see the bigger picture.
Right.
And it's been very hard for me to see people with their head buried in the sand, not recognizing certain things, both within my own industry and life and in philosophy, but I don't need to change them.
Okay.
That's what tech is telling us.
Yeah.
You can't change someone unless they are desirous of change, and then you're not doing anything.
No.
So,
and then you just need to be like, hey, I'm happy you came out.
So we need a Kung Fu Panda's mentor and just be.
Yeah, just be. Yeah, it's very zen, and it fits quite well with a lot of things that I think about with Star Wars in general, which is you can't choose somebody. You can't force somebody to walk the path. They have to choose to walk it on their own.
Yep.
And you can just be there to be like, I cheer you on. Yeah.
You can show them a path is there.
Yeah.
You can walk the path with them, but you can't take them on the path.
And you can't
have to find their own way to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, especially when
the path is constantly tilting so that everybody slides down it, and then the path is suddenly the other way, and then they have to climb up it, and then the path is just a glass tube, and it's broken, and you can't walk down it anymore, and the path is dark and full of water and fire. Yeah, exactly. We literally were rebirthed.
I know.
Constantly going down birth canal after birth canal.
Yeah, it was a deeply symbolic episode. I don't know what to tell you.
And I wrote at the beginning, I'm like, the first words I wanted to say about Kamino Lost was the plot felt safe. Felt really safe. Like they didn't have branching intersections of choices that they had to make. They literally were presented with one option of moving forward, and they had to take that.
Well, it's kind of like the line from that Brendan Fraser movie, Blast from the Past.
Oh, okay.
When his dad is trying to teach him baseball and a forced play. And it's like, because you must be born, right? You must move on with this case, your point in your life. You must. And
you must run. Why do I have to run? Because you must.
Because you must, yeah. And it's very similar to certain stages in our lives that we face, right? So I don't want to graduate high school. Well, you must. I don't want to go to school. Well, you must. I don't want to, I don't want to take these things on. I don't want to go to this next scary part of my life, or I don't want to leave my family behind when they're not ready to go on a journey with me. But you must.
Yeah. I don't want to go to second base. The guy with the ball is standing there.
Yes.
He'll just tag me and I'll be out.
But it's a forced play. You must.
But you must. Yep. But I don't want to. I'll just wait.
But you don't understand. You must. And then he watches the baseball game and he finally understands.
He must.
He must. Yes. I just love that movie so much. Brendan Fraser is, of course, a brilliant actor.
Yes.
Who deserves the world. This has nothing to do with what is happening in the world right now and how mean people have been to him. I just think he's great.
Well, people are not very mean to Crosshair in this episode.
No, they're very nice to him, even though he seemed to want to kill him, killed the rest of them once. But I guess that was all just a misunderstanding because he was really trying to tempt them back to the Empire.
But I do love the nuance at the very top of the episode, and you might not have noticed it, and you listening might not have noticed it either. Crosshair wakes up, and the first thing he says to Hunter is essentially, "What have you done?"
Yeah.
Because he got knocked out at the end of the episode.
Right.
And he's not awakened until everything is on fire. The power is out. The whole world is collapsing. And he's like, why? What have you done?
It was Wrecker, actually. No, I'm just kidding. But
what have you done, Hunter?
What have you done? Yes.
But he says this to Hunter.
Yeah, I
what
know.
have you done? Like, because he knows
Like,
you're in the lead. You destroyed everything.
Yes.
And Hunter's like, no, it's not me.
There's your friends.
The Empire is shooting down Kamino, and that causes Crosshair
to
that
get
moment
disoriented.
of because now it's shaking a foundational belief. Like he thought the Empire would have his back, right? They don't have his back. They don't care about you. Let's show this over and over again, and we'll tell you this over and over again. In fact, we're going to leave you here on this platform when we fly away because you refuse to join us, for you to be eventually picked up by scout ships from an empire that's already left.
What's he going to eat?
Because nobody cares.
Right.
Crosshair in the Empire about you.
But that whole ship full of people, they cared.
They do. So much.
So much.
So much so that Omega turned around and talked to him twice.
Yep.
Before she left.
He was such a jerk to her.
Was he?
Yeah.
His interactions with Omega have always been very limited. Like he's had almost no interactions with her the entire season.
I know. It's just...
He sees her as a new clone.
Yes.
Doesn't even know, understandably believes Omega to be special because it's a lady clone.
Yes.
Doesn't realize that Omega is older than he is. Doesn't realize Omega has experiences and knowledge and foresight better than him.
Yes.
And he gets shown that this episode.
And I really hope that we get more of those interactions in the future. I think that would be really wonderful. I knew Omega would be the thing that at least makes him question some aspects of what he knows. You did have a really good comparison between Crosshair and Hunter, and of course we've talked about this one before.
So much.
When we covered season 7 of the Clone Wars, you were like, "Yeah, they're the Ninja Turtles."
Yeah. This episode shows very well
who is who.
Raphael fighting with Leonardo, and I was like, what if Raphael had been swayed by the Foot Clan and joined Splinter and been like, screw you, Leo, I'll lead my own battalion. I don't need you. I
feel like there should be a story out there for a period of time where Raphael joins the Foot Clan.
And if there isn't, make it happen, because
that's a really cool and interesting story.
Leonardo's trying to fight a way to get him back and be like, you've been brainwashed, you've been hypnotized. We all got that hypnotizing. He's like, no, I broke that a while ago.
Yeah, it's very Black Knight, or when Lancelot goes crazy in the Knights of the Round Table. From the Knights of the Round Table, when Lancelot goes crazy and kind of becomes evil for a little while. It's a lot like that. And, I absolutely just love that it's something that we're exploring. Like, you can't control your family's decisions.
Yep.
And you can be heartbroken to see them walk out the door and go and do those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. The music this episode was amazing. Shout out to all the Kainers.
The whole family.
The whole family that worked on this episode, because we know that the Kainer brothers, as well as Kevin Kainer, worked on it. So
yeah, it was really good. I was mainly distracted by how dark it was for me to see the episode. I think that anybody who's watching it on a phone or on their computer and not at a great high-end TV or in a darkened space is not going to get the full appreciation out of this episode as a result. Written by Jennifer Corbett directly.
Amazing.
And yeah, I initially was like, it's a safe episode, but devil's in the details of this one. There's so many moments are taken along their single path line journey. And I did a little wave up
down
and down
the birth canal,
down and up on the water slide.
You have no choice. You must.
That really made this episode a good finish to the season.
I agree. I feel like it was ending strong with character development and conflict and reestablishing where everything lies. So next season we will know exactly where everybody was very clearly when they left. And so if any change or transformation happens between the seasons, that will be interesting to explore and to understand why.
Yep. And it's brilliant to end with Mom.
Ah, yes. Now let's talk about that.
I want to know what planet that is, because that was such a cool... I initially had thought it was the Bad Batch arriving to see Rex.
Ah,
that's what
interesting.
I thought. So when it pulled up and it was like, whoa, stormtroopers. This is not the planet I was expecting. And then these mountainous hills that have these rings carved out of them where the Empire is working out of and launching their ships.
Mm-hmm.
I had hoped that the character that they introduced was given a name, but she's only known as Medical Officer.
Yeah. Did you recognize the patch on her arm?
No, I was too busy trying to think about where I'd heard the voice before.
The patch on her arm is worn by the doctor who attempts to take Grogu or Baby Yoda's blood in The Mandalorian.
What? Wow,
yeah, so
tie-in.
So Empire cloning group.
Oh my. Okay. So is Grogu a clone of Yoda?
No, because they didn't have Grogu before. They were trying to capture him to get the blood, right?
Right.
Grogu grew up in the temple. This to me is like they're trying to get strong force sensitive blood at that point. In the,
I made too quick a logical leap, not thinking about what they told us from the last season of Grogu being like 50 years old and the same age as Anakin, and therefore how could that possibly be the case that he's a clone? But nonetheless, the medical officer was played by Helen Sadler.
Yeah,
and Helen Sadler has been with Lucas for quite some time, like Disney for some time now on the Star Wars side, doing a lot of voices in the video game stuff and some of the animated things, and has been both the animated voice of Jyn Erso and Rey. Oh,
like during Forces of Destiny?
I don't know. I wasn't looking too closely. I just wanted to know. I wanted to know who this person was.
It was probably Forces of Destiny, because I think that's the only time that we've seen Jyn with an alternative story and Rey.
Sure.
So
I think it was different things as well as video games and whatnot.
Oh,
too.
interesting.
So,
okay.
So she's done the voice of Jyn and she's done the voice of Rey, and here she is as
medical officer number one,
currently unnamed medical officer, who I want more of immediately because I really liked the design.
Yeah.
There was almost a Dr. Aphra-esque design quality to her.
Yeah.
I felt, and they made us look up to her, which was really interesting because Nala Se looks down to the medical officer. But as that happens, the camera angle was actually up to her, showing this person has power and authority, and she looks down upon us.
And she's important too, for some reason.
So I want a name. I want more of her as we develop what's going on with Nala Se next season.
And it's not like I want this plot to happen, but I'm wondering if we will actually get like Palpatine creating clones that show up eventually in The Rise of Skywalker or Snoke or whatever. I mean, I'm just wondering if this is where this is going to tie stuff together. I don't need it.
Yeah.
It was interesting that Palpatine was on all of the like sort of advertisements for like the like branding and everything like that for the Bad Batch as like this looming figure. He's always a looming figure in the background. But we never saw him this whole season.
Not at all, yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
I am interested more about what's developing because it almost feels like what I had initially had always thought what Clone Wars would be, which is
clones versus clones?
No.
Oh.
I've cloned you and now I've inserted another version of you into the world, and like senators and politicians and people of power getting cloned so that they could be controlled and then taken out in like a Manchurian Candidate sort of style.
Oh my God.
Right? I'd always figured when he talks about having fought in the Clone Wars, it's that the Sixth Day, that sort of, and
the
all
Arnold
other
Schwarzenegger movie where you have to check your eyelids to see if you're a clone,
and like Blade Runner with the replicants, like all of these things.
But
there,
that's always
and then
like
Clone Wars is
more
like
covert, whereas this was very obvious.
the Clone Wars. Yeah, it's just this one guy.
It's just this one clone.
It's just a million of that one guy. We didn't make anybody else. Is that a Clone War then? I'm confused. But
Yeah.
again, they have that technology. This is in some ways science fiction, and science fiction always asks questions of like, if you have this technology, how does it change society, and is that good or bad? The changes that are wrought, not that the technology itself is good or bad, but what good or ill can be done with it, and how do we combat that? How do we face that?
Yeah.
Good science fiction does that, and in some ways, we got cloning technology introduced in a previous Star Wars example, outing story, and now we're getting, what are the ramifications of clone
that long
technology?
term, yeah.
What are bad people going to do with this tech?
I mean, we already sort of know the answers to that, which is whatever Palpatine does to create Snoke, because that guy's creepy.
A vat of Snokes.
It's if you have many of them, it's called a sneak.
I did not know that. I didn't want to know that either. Also, I'm wondering, like, what's the minimum?
What is a herd of them called? Is that where?
No,
what is
I was getting to like, what is the minimum? Kind of like cook time. To get the best broth, a good bone broth, minimum 4 hours, but you really want as long as you possibly can. And like, how long do you really need to broth a vat of Snokes in order to get
the perfect Snoke?
The quintessential essence in the broth.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I'm sure we're going to find these questions out. I'm sure.
But we're going to, because they end the entire season with that. They do not end with them arriving to meet with Rex.
Nope.
They turn to Mom.
Yeah. It was really interesting. And, it's... just to let you know, I do have that art that I asked Selena to Seluchen on Twitter to make, where it's Snoke, sexy Snoke in a martini glass, because with olives.
That is in existence now?
No, it's been in existence for a while. I just always wanted that, because like, it's such a ridiculous idea, the Snokes in the vats or whatever. And it's like, well, this is the ideal Snoke. It's like 72 years. That's how long it takes to make a Snoke. No, just kidding.
You're so funny. So, Bad Batch. Sad Batch?
Sad Batch?
Yeah.
Oh.
Are we ready for that?
I think we had Batch.
Oh, okay. That's funny.
Just because, hey, it's done for this season. I've really, really enjoyed and had a really good time covering this with you. It's been a lot of awesome. And like, this episode was deeply symbolic, and so my jam entirely. And so I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
I'm very full of had a lot of Batch.
Good. Mine is a near rhyme on both cases. I went with glass cracks. Because there was a lot.
Yes, there was. It was very dangerous, them walking through that.
And there are a lot of symbolism, and there is a lot of symbolism associated with cracking glass. It shows that your perspective is changing, that what has been see-through before. It talks about breaking through barriers.
Yep.
And also the fragility of your foundation, where you're standing.
And often when you look at yourself in something reflective that cracks like that, it is to show that you're no longer going to be the same person that you were before, and that you're actually going to be shattered and rebuilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was lots of glass cracks in this, and I know that's not really Bad Batch, but I think that if I was a really good poet or rapper or songwriter, that
I could get away with it.
You
could get away with it.
Rhyme something Bad Batch, and then in the next line end it with glass cracks, and it would really be fitting. And so you got to live with it, people. Glass cracks.
Well, Is there anything in particular that you want out of next season that we haven't already talked about?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like looking ahead. I like looking at what we've seen, but I get caught up in this sort of what will come perspective. I'm very happy that Crosshair, now that I've seen what is his change, that he cannot rejoin his family because he can't put aside his idealism, which was revealed last episode, right? We thought he was just going to be, saved. The inhibitor chip pulled out, all his fun and running around together. Mm-hmm. No, because that's going to leave the rest of the clones that look just like him out there at the whim of the Empire.
Yeah, he needs to go back so that he can lead them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good.
Because he's made the choice and he has to make a new choice.
Exactly.
So that'll be very interesting. I am excited for that. And then I'm curious as to what is the purpose of the Bad Batch. They did a lot of wandering and soul searching already this season. They found Sid, who became like surrogate mom for them for a little while, like their landlady, making sure that their rent is getting paid on time and they don't have to pay electrical because the landlord pays electrical. They just pay their rent. So there's that. I would be interested in seeing more development on their side to become independent adults.
Right. Which we talked about a lot this season. Yeah.
So that's a big element for me, but they still need to be caught up in a plot and a journey and a travel and growth. So I'm interested and I'm hoping that the first couple of episodes of the next season will give us that.
Absolutely. Me personally, I want more down the Crosshair path of the things that he's experiencing that will allow him to see things differently. And I also would like Omega to be aged up a little bit. I just think she's too small.
Time will pass.
I think so. I hope so. That would be my preference, is that they age her up. I mean, kids grow so fast at that age, but physically representing her to be more like growing into a woman, or that key Star Wars age, 9 to 12.
Yeah, late tween.
Yeah, I would like her to be a late tween, please, not an early tween.
Same as they did with Ezra between the first and second season.
Yes.
Same thing. Show us growth, show us development, and then give the Bad Batch new outfits.
Yeah. I really like their incognito outfits.
Yeah.
Those were great. I hope they pull those out more, or costume changes show psychological change really well. So I think that's the only things I want. Continue to tell great stories, Jennifer Corbett.
Yep. with what seems to be at times the limited tools you have, i.e. that she only has the Bad Batch, which is a group of like 5 guys. They're all the same guy.
Yeah.
They have interplay with each other, but they're all brothers.
Yeah.
And so there's
very little actual conflict that has been presented amongst themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. And it would be neat to see them off on their own adventures, a tech adventure where tech goes and interacts with different people, and they all develop their own, contacts, friend groups, liaisons, so that they're not tied together, because it becomes a very crowded room when all of the Bad Batch are there and there's 2 NPCs.
Yes.
Right? Because it's like I picture them like a table of players. Only really one of them can talk at any given time to the NPCs.
Yes.
So you're really only getting Hunter's development or Wrecker's goofiness. Tech and Echo are kind of getting left on the sidelines. And so it would be neat to see some individuality come out when they're sent on their own missions to do their own things, or they wind up with their own half-hour tales.
We say this, but we also recognize that the season is already written and probably mostly animated, and they're just doing all the final touches.
Well, it's not like anything I'm saying on this podcast is ever going to be heard by them and be like, oh, that Kyle guy, why isn't he in the writer's room, right?
No. But I mean, these are the things that we share with our audience because it is fun to speculate a little bit. Yes.
From a literary and structural perspective, it just makes better sense for greater character development to occur when you can show a character highlighted in exclusion.
Yes, absolutely.
So how can that not happen next season? And it gives them
it's like
legs.
the Blue Spirit episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Exactly.
Or
in the third season when each of them gets to go with Zuko on their own Zuko adventure.
I haven't had my Zuko adventure yet.
Exactly.
Yes. Exactly. Absolutely. All right. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for joining me, Kyle.
You bet. I have one question for your audience.
Okay.
Are you a fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender? Hit me up and tell me that you are or are not of gauging interest out there in the world. There are some amazing Avatar things happening out there. In fact, you might not know this, Marie Claire, but I just found out today that the guys who created Avatar, they stepped away from the live action show. But part of that agreement when they stepped away is they got to create Avatar Studios under Nickelodeon with their own thing. So they have their own.
So they can own like the animation side?
I don't know.
Or whatever else they're doing.
Like
so
Nickelodeon.
There's been so many announcements. There's been, which of course Dave Filoni was the lead director, supervising director of the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender. So like kudos to him before he went and joined Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Before George Lucas said, "Here's your dream job, and also will you be my surrogate son?"
Yeah.
Will you be my stepson or my adopted son? Like that. That's just my headcanon. Anyway, that's how he treats them sometimes in their interviews. But we have announcement, live action series has been cast. We have the Avatar: The Last Airbender role-playing game, or Avatar World role-playing game that is currently being kickstarted, and at last count was at
$5.4 million.
Crazy amounts of money. It's going to be an amazing role-playing game, and lots of people are going to play it. I actually ran a Savage Worlds RPG just for friends of ours, set in the Avatar world. And it is a lot of fun to think about these things in that way. The world itself is a lot of fun to play in. So I'm really looking forward to checking out that role-playing game. And of course, your news, which is all about Avatar Studios. Yeah.
So Avatar Studios is its own thing, which means I think we're going to get more Avatar World pieces. And they finally have that. They don't have that Nickelodeon oversight, which they had to work through so much of the time in their development of it. So now they have Avatar Studios to do their own thing. And I don't know if you're also a big fan of The Dragon Prince, but
which is also under them.
Aaron Ehasz, who was one of the big creators of Avatar, is the creator of Dragon Prince. So there is Avatar: The Last Airbender has thrown so much delightful, beautiful stuff out into the world from the people that developed it, that anything that's happening around that world ideology, like that,
the core concept,
the owned piece, the
Lotus Paisho tile,
intellectual property.
Oh,
is gold.
Yeah,
and continue. It's like it's with
the exception of the M. Night Shyamalan movie,
but that wasn't them, right?
Know,
that was
that was. But that's why people are worried about the Netflix show, because now they've stepped back and stuff like that. So we'll see how everything plays out. I'm really looking forward to the role playing game. It looks really good.
Yep, it is going to reach probably the top 5
Kickstarters of all time. Yeah,
without fail.
Yeah,
it is going to hit that. So if you're an Avatar: The Last Airbender fan, tell me you are. Tweet to me, reply in this podcast, hit a message up on whattheforce.ca or on YouTube, wherever you're listening, send me a note, because if there's enough interest out there, I want to do something about that.
Oh.
Yeah. But only if there's enough interest.
I'm not sure what that means, but I'm interested to find out.
If there's interest.
Yeah.
So
I'm interested to find out. So you better tell Kyle if you're a fan.
Absolutely.
And Kyle, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you and tell you that they're an Avatar: The Last Airbender fan, or any other commentary like, what is Rampart's real first name?
You can find me at Tavern Tales DM on Twitter. That's the best place to find me there. However, hey, have you reviewed on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice What the Force yet? Because if you haven't, come on now. You like this content. You love this content. You're probably on the Patreon paying for this content. And if you're not, you should be. But drop Marie Claire a review because it means the world. It brightens her day and helps others find the podcast.
Yes. Most importantly, thank you for sticking through this season and enjoying our tete-a-tete together, how we have talked about stuff. And I look forward to covering, I have a few topics to cover before Vision starts in September.
Ooh.
Yes, which I'm going to be covering. I have a few topics, one I'm going to be doing with Kyle, which will be fun, and another one I've already recorded all about some symbolism and stuff like that. So getting back into my main stuff, but we will be slowing down releases for the next month and a little bit, to every 2 weeks, and then I might take a week break before we start Visions again.
Or we'll just drop out the High Republic comic that we were talking about.
That was part of
that's
that.
coming soon.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes. We are going to work on that. So lots of stuff upcoming. And then Book of Boba Fett will be in the fall.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Is that Rangers show still happening?
It is set to happen. They have to recast Gina.
Is that 2022 though, or 2023?
Probably 2023. I don't know.
I hope they get Appa to do that. Not the Flying Bison, but from Kim's Convenience.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I mean, I'd be totally cool if they got...
He's got a name.
If they got Appa
from
Avatar The Last Airbender to be in Rangers, I'm down. I will watch that show.
Yes.
But I hope it's Kim's Convenience, Appa.
He's such a big Star Wars fan.
He is one of my favorite performers on Modern Love. I had never even heard him or seen Kim's Convenience when he was on Modern Love. The essay he reads is one that still, to this day, even though it's been 3 or 4 years since I heard it, is still part of the things I hold close to my heart in my core as stories that have changed me. So if you're a big fan of Modern Love,
Paul Hyung Lee.
Yeah. Check him out. That Modern Love episode is great from him. And I hope that he is a key element in Rangers.
Absolutely. And like he's just like his behind the scenes stories about how they didn't have a X-Wing pilot costume big enough for him, and they'd never made one for a pilot that big, and he's like I'm part of the Rebel Legion, and I make my own.
I'll just bring my own.
And he got to try on a few of the classic helmets just as trials and stuff like that. He really got to experience being a fan who got to be part of it.
There's like the pack on the front or whatever that they had for him, and it wasn't right, and he was like, shouldn't I, based on the time frame that we're at, be using the Mark II or whatever it is? And they were like, what are you talking about? And he's brought up like pictures of the ones he'd fabricated to show them the difference between them.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? Who are you? And he's like, yeah, I'm a nerd.
I'm part of the Rebel Legion, and also the 501st, and I'm also a big fan. Yay.
What a dream. I want more of him in Star Wars because he's got a body type we don't see in Star Wars too often, especially from heroes' perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of bad guys or
the body type is named Porkins.
Yeah. And then they die. So more heroes, and I like seeing more POC on screen as well, and they're doing lots more of that, but
and he's so funny. He's got the best comedic timing, so do it, friends. All right, we should wrap up the show and say goodbye for now.
All right, so long, Bad Batch,
and we will see the Bad Batch another time. Cheers. Thank you for listening to What the Force. I'm Marie Claire Gould, your host. Our music is orchestral music by Christy Carew for What the Force. We have a Patreon at patreon.com/whattheforce. We like to thank all our patrons, especially those who love and are obsessed with What the Force. Brad, Melody, Night Huntress in Wild Space, Felicia, How Rude, Anna Perez, Macau Mom, Neil, James, Joe Allen D, Christian Luca, Josh Johnson, Scott C, and Susan, Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube or leave a 5-star review on iTunes or other pod apps. It helps people find the show. Check out our other channel on YouTube or other podcast feeds, What the Fiction. You can connect with us on Twitter at WT Force Show, What the Force Podcast on Facebook, or our website, whattheforce.ca, or on our Discord. Links are in the liner notes. Feel free to reach out and start a conversation. Cheers.